Live from the Tri-States News and Weather Leader, this is 14 News.
Still many unanswered questions surrounding the death of a Mount Vernon couple. Good evening, I'm Randy Moore. Troopers say 74-year-olds John and Elizabeth Hall were found dead inside their home on Mulberry Street Saturday morning. Officials refused to release how they died, but they say there were items stolen from the home. Mrs. Hall went to the city council with her concerns about neighborhood safety just last week. Today, we sat down with Mayor Bill Curtis.
She came in, she did not appear to be, she wasn't upset with anybody. It was more an informational on her part. She wanted to make sure we were all aware of it.
Mayor Curtis says violent crime isn't common in Mount Vernon. He says it's been 50 years since something on this scale has happened in town. Mrs. Hall isn't the only one who has expressed concerns about safety in the area. Neighbors tell 14 News they're questioning whether this area truly is safe. We spoke with the victim's neighbor who says they put up security cameras because they were having issues with people breaking into their vehicles. The neighbor says she did not really know the victims, but the homicides have everyone on edge.
We're taking cautions of making sure all of our doors are locked, all of our windows are locked. It's took it a lot on a lot of people in the house. It's affected everybody differently.
Indiana State Police is leading the investigation. We'll have updates just as soon as we get more information. A Boonville man accused of murder took the stand today during his trial. 46-year-old Brian Baumgartner is one of 3 people accused in the death of Valerie Rourke in 2019. During testimony, Baumgartner said he was high on meth and pills the night Rourke went missing. He says he doesn't remember any of his 3 interviews with police. Closing arguments are set to begin tomorrow morning. Fiber broadband is a step closer to coming to Vanderburgh County. Tonight, the Board of Commissioners approved a contract with AT&T to start a 2-year internet coverage project. Brady Williams was at the meeting tonight. He joins us here in the studio.
Randy, the project would be over $30 million paid out by AT&T and $9.9 million from the county. That funding needs to be approved by the county council, but so far, commissioners were strongly in favor of it. After months of work, the county commissioners approved a deal with AT&T to provide high-speed internet to Vanderburgh County. Commissioner Cheryl Musgrave has spearheaded the project for years now.
We were careful, and we think that the consumers are protected and that AT&T will deliver what they promised.
The plan would require $9.9 million from the county to bring in fiber coverage, which AT&T Indiana President Bill Swords says will be a great option for a long time.
For most people, fiber is just faster. It's the ideal network. No technology is future-proofed, but fiber is the best and fastest facilities that the industry has today.
Around 20,000 homes would receive coverage. That includes most of the county, excluding Evansville and Darmstadt, and a few small patches of land on the northern edge of the county.
It's because AT&T doesn't have telephone service there, so that they don't have anything to build upon.
AT&T says the project will only take a maximum of 2 years if it gets fully approved.
So probably the first 9 months or so we'll be designing and ordering facilities and materials, but hopefully early next fall we'll start communicating with customers that new fiber-based internet's available for them.
The entire project will only proceed if the county council approves the funding. The county council votes on whether or not they'll adopt the $9.9 million in county funding tomorrow night. In studio, Brady Williams, 14 News.
Brady, thanks. John Deere's production president says the company's had to change its day-to-day operations to deal with the ongoing worker strike. Since some farmers are still harvesting, leaders say their main focus is ensuring customers get the parts they need. So they put salaried workers on the production line.
Our salaried workforce is working to bring those lines up and has been both shipping product and complete goods out of factories, but also starting up those primary production areas that are required for that continuity of service.
The company says communications with the union remain open. Last week, Deere said the last proposed contract turned down by UAW was their last, best, and final offer.
After a cloudy day and temperatures in the mid-60s around the tri-state, skies are going to clear overnight, and that should help our temperature nudge on down into the mid-40s. We're at 53 now. That dew point sitting at 48. That's probably a good gauge of where we're headed overnight as that temp gets down to around 47 or 48 degrees just after sunrise. Then we're at 60 by 10 o'clock, and we move on up into the 70s, perhaps for the last time here, certainly in the next week. Out at the drop-off line tomorrow, then a little brisk there with 47 degrees at 7 a.m.
Bond has been doubled for the Evansville mother accused of murder and neglect in the death of her 3-year-old daughter. McKaylee Opperman was arrested after police say her daughter Kamari was found dead in late October. According to arrest affidavits, police believe Kamari ingested a pill laced with fentanyl. 911 calls show the child wasn't taken to the hospital and died the next day. Opperman's bond had been bumped to $50,000 cash. Her next court appearance is set for December 21st. Parents arrested on felony neglect charges have been ordered to take part in a drug abuse probation service. Now, authorities arrested Sasha Drake and Clifford Johns last week after a welfare check at their home on Crestview Drive. There, they found a newborn baby who they say hadn't received any medical care. Police say they found trash stacked from the floor to the ceiling throughout the home, crawling with insects and no power when temperatures dropped into the 30s. Officials say they also found drugs in the home. Vandenberg Sheriff Dave Wedding says the baby had meth in her system. Both parents are set to be back in court on December 21st. Bossy Field could be getting a new neighbor. The Evansville City Council approved a plan to bring new life to the Crawford Door building right across Heidelbach Avenue. It's a $14 million project to build an assisted living facility. Some of the units overlook historic Bossy Field. Department of Metropolitan Development Director Kelly Coors says not only will this project help house local residents, it will also bring more than 70 jobs to the Jacobsville neighborhood, everything from medical staff to office staff. Coors says that will in turn help local businesses as well.
Housing for all persons is important, regardless of your age, regardless of your income status, regardless of whatever disability you may have. There's a great need in the community for housing for everybody.
Officials say they're looking at about a 2-year timeline for the project. The city of Owensboro has announced its inaugural 12 days of Christmas celebration. Each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from Thanksgiving to Christmas, the city will host holiday-themed events for the public. Crews decked out the riverfront with Christmas decorations to prepare for this brand new celebration. This isn't your typical 12 days of Christmas like the classic song. We're told this is 12 days set aside by the city where they will host fun events to get people into the holiday spirit. The two big things to keep your eye on are the outdoor ice skating rink at the convention center and a lights and music show at the Smothers Park fountains.
This will be lit up with tens of thousands of lights, and every 15 minutes from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. All those lights will come on, audio will come on with your favorite Christmas songs, and all the lights will dance to the music, as well as the bridge lights behind us will be choreographed to that as well.
Starting on Black Friday, the city will have numerous Christmas events happening each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. To find a full list of everything going on, visit our link at 14news.com. New at 10, an adventure park could be coming to Davis County. The Davis County Fiscal Court says the park could include zip lining, a rope challenge course, and even elevated skywalks. They will be conducting a feasibility study for 3 potential locations. Results from the study are expected by the end of the year. New details emerging in the Astro World investigation. Organizers are accused of not doing enough to prevent the crowd surge. Congress wants a crash course on vehicle safety, and experts say updated federal standards can't come soon enough.
You're watching the Tri-States News and Weather Leader. This is 14 News at 10.
A step closer to closing the collision division comes with the new infrastructure bill. Our national investigative team explains how the recent bipartisan approval in Congress means a new look at vehicle safety is just around the corner. Here's our White House correspondent, John Decker, with Collision Division.
The $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill headed to President Biden's desk requires the agency in charge of vehicle safety to take a look at how it tests for that safety and how it can better represent all drivers on the road. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA, puts out 5-star safety ratings for new cars each year. But our team's investigation found those ratings don't fully take into account female drivers, leaving female crash test dummies out of the test for the most common crashes.
The bill, as amended, is passed.
While the infrastructure bill was in the Senate, Senator Gary Peters inserted an amendment that seeks to address that disparity. The Michigan Democrats' addition requires a report from the Government Accountability Office about NHTSA's crash test practices within 1 year of the bill's passage. That report will look at the types of crash test dummies used, where the dummies are seated, and if those seat locations contribute to a safety disparity. The GAO is also asked to look at crash test technology, including more so-called biofidelic models that are already on the market, how NHTSA evaluates them, and the timeline it uses to begin using new technology. A key point, given industry experts say the agency is woefully behind the times.
If you look back in the early 80s, the standards had been defined to the modern crash test dummy, but they've really been fairly stagnant since. There has been some advances, but not to the level that would be expected for the amount of technology that's changed.
That's despite NHTSA commissioning and funding research into newer, more advanced crash test dummies. These new dummies are already being put to use in Europe and soon to be in Asia, but NHTSA has reported it's still studying them.
And we can't wait. We can't wait for 3 years or 4 years to get a change in place. There should be movement to put a change in place yesterday.
Throughout the reporting by Investigate TV and our Washington, D.C. team, NHTSA declined to comment on the matter. The infrastructure bill now heads to President Biden's desk. Thanksgiving travel might look a lot like it did pre-pandemic. AAA says more than 53 million people are expected to travel for the holiday. That's a 13% increase from last year. 4 million people are expected to fly, an 80% increase from last year. But most holiday travelers will likely be on the roads.
A lot more confidence. People are feeling better about traveling. And no matter what the gas prices are, and they are quite a bit higher than last year, people are still going to take that trip.
AAA predicts 48 million people are driving this Thanksgiving. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published the latest vaccination data today. Now, it shows that people who receive the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine are the least likely to have received a booster dose. And most of those who do get a booster shot have opted for a different manufacturer. Also, when it comes to people who were initially vaccinated with the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine, the data show that most of those who received the booster opted to stick with the same manufacturer. Nearly 59% of the total U.S. population is now vaccinated against COVID-19. New details are emerging in the deadly crowd surge at Houston's Astroworld Festival. Lawsuits continue to pile up against rapper Travis Scott and those behind the festival, while investigators look into what exactly caused the death of 8 victims. Here's Isabel Rosales.
Intense scrutiny over the deadly Astroworld Festival.
They were on the ground and basically getting trampled, and no one would pick them up.
Rapper Travis Scott and those behind promoting and planning the event under the microscope, accused of not doing enough to prevent or react to the crowd surge.
The way the barricades were set up had people trapped in, and it was a death trap.
The medical examiner's office says it could take several weeks to determine the cause of death for the 8 victims.
Many people want to shed blame, but it's really too early.
Scott says he will pay for the funeral costs of the victims. 3 people remain hospitalized, including a 9-year-old boy. His family says he's in a medically induced coma.
A 9-year-old child had a heart attack because he was being trampled so severely.
Lawsuits continue to stack up, at least 18 filed since Friday.
This should have been stopped from the very beginning, and what we know for sure is that Travis Scott continued to perform.
Scott maintains he had no idea the extent of what was happening in the crowd. Fellow performer Drake posted Monday, "My heart is broken for the families and friends of those who lost their lives and for anyone who is suffering." Meanwhile, according to the Wall Street Journal, people familiar with the investigation said investigators are looking into whether a batch of counterfeit pills, possibly laced with fentanyl, played a role in some of the deaths. Authorities have been reached out to for comment. I'm Isabel Rosales reporting.
Well, tomorrow just might be the best day of the week. Jeff's working on your Wednesday forecast. nonplussed.
And I'll be honest with you, I said, without a miracle, he is not going to live.
But a miracle did happen, and today the students who saved an Indiana teacher were honored.
The leader in tracking storms. Here's your 14 First Alert forecast.
All right, tomorrow is to be the peak temperature-wise and nice weather-wise before we plunge into some very cold air for the weekend. Let me just take a peek out here. I've been looking at new data, but I always like to check first. Yeah, I think we're all right. Let's raise the blinds. And we have a sunny day out there for tomorrow, at least to start. Now, there will be some clouds moving in by the afternoon, but more importantly, it's going to be warm, and enjoy it, too, while we have it, because the 70s are not coming back for quite some time after we get through Wednesday afternoon. Tomorrow, temperatures will get into the 50s by the evening, but then our next concern will be the rain and the wet commute on Thursday morning. And our rain is showing up out here. It's currently almost up to about Denver, Colorado here, and into North Platte, Nebraska, and places like that. We'll continue to move our way through the day on Wednesday, and that means by early Thursday morning, we will likely be tracking some rain out here to the west of the tri-state. Byron Douglas will, and that will have an impact on the commute. It'll be wet as you head out to school and work on Thursday morning. Here's tomorrow morning, and we have a few clouds rolling through. That wind starting to pick up there. If you can see the wind arrows picking up out of the south, we may have some gusts of up to 20 miles an hour just ahead of that cold front. And then here comes the rain. This is 5:30 on Thursday morning. Illinois getting a pretty good drink at that point. And then by 8 o'clock, the showers will be right across the midsection at Evansville-Henderson, Princeton, basically Highway 41. And then by 10:30 or so, it has passed Tell City and Owensboro, and the line of showers begins to move out. There'll be a few lingering sprinkles there behind it, and then we really clear out nicely for Thursday night, which of course will enable a big chill as we move into Friday morning. And then the next step happens on Saturday, when the temperature will plunge as that northwest wind really kicks in and pulls down some sharply colder air, and that means highs only in the 40s for Saturday. For tonight, down to about 45 to 47 degrees, and tomorrow, warm. 72 is certainly warm any time of the year, but certainly in November. And then for your 7-day forecast, we're expecting things to stay chilly, at least through the weekend here. Starting with Friday, we get all the way down to 51. Saturday, look at that, 43. And then Sunday, 48 degrees. But still, both weekend days are going to be quite chilly out there. I guess the 7-day takeaways tonight are a windy and warm Wednesday, so enjoy it while you can. And then wet for Veterans Day. If you have observations out there, ceremonies, be mindful that we'll likely have rain during the day. And then a cold weekend with high temperatures in the 40s. That's triple layer weather for me.
All right, Jeff, thanks. In Newcastle, Indiana, school leaders honored a group of students for helping save a teacher's life after he fell at a construction site. The teacher was there too and thanked them personally for their quick action. Emily Longnecker has the story.
It's a wonderful day to be alive.
And the neck brace Don Criswell has to wear at least until January is a reminder how he very easily could not even be standing here.
But I'm standing here and we're having a conversation and just glad to do it.
But an accident in September could have changed all that forever. Don's a building trades teacher and was working with a group of high school students at a construction site when he stepped on a board that wasn't secure and fell 9 feet head first onto concrete.
That's the last thing I remember.
Not so for the students and staff who were there. They remember everything.
I immediately called 911 when I was running to get to him.
I took off my sweatshirt and helped wrap my sweatshirt and held their sweatshirts onto his head.
He kept trying to fight to get up, thinking he was going to walk it off like it was just another fall.
The Henry County Sheriff's deputy who arrived on scene knew differently.
And I'll be honest with you, I said, without a miracle, he is not going to live.
Not only did Don live, he was there Monday to thank the people who helped save his life when the Newcastle Community Schools School Board honored them with awards.
We may not have Don if it wasn't for their quick action and their leadership.
I am grateful to these 3 people right here.
And just as soon as he can, Don says he'll be back to work. His students need him.
Mr. Criswell loves these boys because they're of great value.
Good to see he is on the mend. Now to an update from Eastern Kentucky. Hazard High School's principal and 2 other staff members have been punished following a controversial homecoming rally at the school. Pictures show teenage boys dressed up in women's lingerie and dancing on and near school leaders. The assembly happened late last month. The pictures were posted on the high school's athletics Facebook page but have since been deleted. Officials say Principal Donald Happy Mobilini, who is also Hazard's mayor, and 2 staff members received reprimands for unprofessional conduct. The reprimands say they will have to attend training and that similar incidents could result in them being fired. 45 sixth graders at a North Carolina middle school got sick yesterday afternoon, and school officials and health officials are trying to figure out why. The students at Starmount Middle School in Yadkin County complained about feeling nauseous and having headaches, and some threw up. Oddly, it was only 6th grade students who were affected. No 7th or 8th graders reported feeling ill. So far, they've ruled out carbon monoxide poisoning as a cause. They're looking into the possibility of food poisoning. The Evansville Purple Aces men's basketball team opened the season on the road at Cincinnati tonight. The Aces led 13-10 near the midway point of the first half. Evan Kuhlman and Blaze Beauchamp would lead the Aces with 11 points apiece for the game. Here is Kuhlman pulling up for the short jumper. Noah Frederking had 8 rebounds. Cincinnati eventually got going and led by 9 at the half. The Bearcats stayed hot in the second half, scoring 11 unanswered points in an early stretch. Cincinnati cruised to a 65-43 win. Now, the Aces return to Evansville for the home opener Thursday when IUPUI comes to the Ford Center. Then UE hits the road again for a Saturday game with Belmont in Nashville. The UE women opened at home against Austin Peay and came away with a 10-point win, 62-52. Abby Fight led the way with 21 points and 11 rebounds. The UE women host Oakland City Sunday at 1. Been looking forward to this Wednesday.
I know it's going to be the nicest day of the week, so I hope you got plans outdoors tomorrow. And then, the bottom falls out with the rain on Thursday and sharply colder over the weekend.
All right, Jeff, thanks a lot. Thank you for watching. Join us again for Sunrise and online anytime at 14news.com. Good night.
Stay prepared when breaking news or severe weather happens by downloading the 14 News apps. Stream live anytime and get alerts for breaking news, weather, and sports. This message is sponsored by Roto-Rooter.